is one area that gives a lot of people worry. You've identified that we've been unfortunate with the quality of leadership in this country. If you have visionless leaders, purposeless leaders, leaders without focus, the nation can never move forward. But what about election? The process that brings these people to power, how do we fix that?
So guys, Seun Agbokoba has shocked Seun of Channels Television while reacting to the state of the nation during an interview session on Channels Television. So guys, you need to take your time and listen for yourself what Mr. Agbokoba has got to say. This is coming at a time when we've seen this government, the current government, overruling the constitution. I mean, the Nigerian constitution means nothing. They've gone all out to destroy democracy. I mean, they want Nigeria to become a one-party system. They don't want the opposition to talk. Nothing is happening. Nigerians are hungry and they are just busy hunting for people who will defect from other parties to the APC to give them leverage ahead of 2027. So guys, take your time and listen to what Seun Agbokoba has got to say in this video. And it's also going to leave you in shock because guess what? Any right-thinking Nigerian knows that Tinubu is wrong in the way he's managing this country. Just take your time, watch this video, and let me know your honest reaction in the comment section below. Now take a look.
The argument that the Western style of democratic and capitalist system in Nigeria has failed to deliver stability, development, or national unity. The adversarial winner-takes-all nature of Western democracy, which is said to have deepened divisions, enabled corruption, and marginalized opposition, are being one of the conversations that some people have been putting forward on these 26 years or so of our democratic rule, of how we immediately and urgently need to reshape it to fit in what will make our nation go forward. Let's for a moment come together as a family and think about it. 26 years ago, when the General Abubakar handed over power to elected Olusegun Obasanjo, is this the Nigeria we thought we were going to have achieved if the civilian get back into power? Is this the kind of country that we dreamt that we would have achieved 26 years later? Is our democracy and the approach to it, is it working or not? Is it time for us to stand up and say, we need to be counted as a people in the committee of nation? We just wanted to run a country and run it, and our people are hungry. There is healthcare, state of healthcare, education in dilapidated classrooms. All of these things are going on like this without a proper benefit to the average Nigeria, what they usually call the dividends of democracy. Let's reassess ourselves before we now start celebrating another Democracy Day. Tonight, I'm being joined by a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, a senior advocate of Nigeria, one person that has seen the corridors of the prison yard because of our democracy, fought and struggled for democracy, and the military to go back to the barracks. Mr. Olisa Agbokoba, senior advocate of Nigeria, is live for us on the program. It's good to see you, Mr. Agbokoba, and thank you so much for coming on the program.
Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'd like to ask you an honest question. And I know that you fought for it. You've done it. You've been there. You've done that. And you can tell us. And at your age, it's okay to call you an elder statesman. You've seen it all. Do you think in these 26 years of our democratic journey, is it the kind of Nigeria that you perhaps, as a person, dreamt or envisaged?
No. I thought that things would have been a lot better than what we have today. And I've looked at it very carefully, and it says something must be wrong. But after, not even 25, let's go to 1960. Then we have military coups, in and out, then finally democracy since 2000. 25 years. Something is fundamentally wrong in a process that is not delivering. I like the way P2B summarized it. Absolutely. You got it absolutely spot on. Nigeria, if you ask Nigerians, broadly speaking right now, who would you want to vote for? They will just tell you want to vote for food in our tummies, good schools, good roads, pay us our salaries in time, housing, the things that make them comfortable. Nigerians are not really interested in who is the president. They're interested in a president who will deliver. That's why it's necessary to also be sure that you have a good president. But in my reflections, and I've reflected quite a lot, I just came to a conclusion that it's time to shed ourselves of this Western model, the Oyibo model, the model that the Europeans and the Americans have foisted on us. It's not working. You know, the other day I saw President Trump in the Arabian Peninsula. And I was saying, these are the same Muslims that we have here. But look at how successful they are. Whether it's in Bahrain, Qatar, even Saudi Arabia, is trying to revamp its image. So what's wrong with us? The thing wrong with us is to ask whether the Western model is suited for Nigeria. I don't think it's suited. Look at China. China is undemocratic, but things are working. Deng Xiaoping, who was the second Chinese leader, brought 900 million people out of poverty. China is today shaking the world because of its resilience, its contribution to the dividends of its people, not necessarily democracy. So I think it's time to have a rethink. I mean, nothing shocked me more than to see Okowa jump out of the PDP, where he was vice presidential candidate. You jump out of it. Without an opposition, how can you have a government? So that's the problem. Everybody wants to be in government, and it's not possible. People want to be in government, winner take all, chop chop. Nobody wants to be in the opposition. And that's why we're not growing. So one of my big points is it's time to rethink, reflect, and say, is this Oyibo Western model working? It's not working, and that's my problem.
So now, you had put pen to paper, and I read the article where you have argued that the adoption of the Western-style democratic and capitalist system of running the government or country is wrong. And that, not necessarily wrong, but that it has not delivered to us as a people the stability that we look forward to, the development, the national unity, the cohesion that Nigeria needs urgently. But in that true sense, have anybody been able to put forward any kind of system that perfectly suits Nigeria as we are presently framed?
It's about thinking through it. That's it. There's been the assumption that this model works. But I think everybody will agree that it's not working. In the last 25 years, it hasn't worked. So can't we begin to think about a new process? The beginning of a new process is to think through it. But what I see is that everybody is happy. The big talk now was 2023. The next big talk is 2027. No one cares to ask, what exactly would we have in 2027? So I want the conversation to start by asking the question, is this thing working for us? My own answer is that the Western model of democracy maybe is working in Europe, but it's certainly not working here. So what is it that we can put on the table that will work? I think that the first thing to do is to recognize that this country is very divided along ethnic, religious, and linguistic lines. So whatever we're going to do will take into account these seismic divisions. That's not happening here. What we see is a very strong centrifugal power center in Abuja, which excludes every other person. You had mentioned that President Tinubu was in Rome for the inauguration of the Pope. Now, if Nigeria can adopt the federalism in the Catholic structure, I'm a Catholic, that would be fantastic. So in my parish church on Sunday, the Pope doesn't know who is the parish priest, and we're building some new centers and new things we're doing that is costing about 1 billion naira. The Pope is not concerned because the Pope has his own hierarchy of powers. He's dealing with issues of dogma, of encyclicals, and not things that concern the local people on the ground. Tell me, the 774 local governments we have in Nigeria, how strong are they? Because the base of Nigerian politics must be at the grassroots. So the disempowerment of the grassroots, where you find almost 200 million Nigerians, is a great disaster. We have to have a model that takes into account the people who live on the fringes. We must bring in the marginalized, the excluded into the political game. But where one party wins and excludes the others, everybody wants to join. So you have all the issues of killings, banditry, all sorts of things unimaginable take place. And so in 2027, we have what the West has endorsed as formal democracy. There's the election. The BVACs will fail. This fails. Judicial process does not work well. We inaugurate a president, and then it goes on and on and on. No, that's the time to think through a new model is now.
Now, Mr. Agbokoba, we as a country, we have usually mouthed, and our political analysts and political scientists have modeled and tried to figure out our federalism, presidential system after the United States. There are those who will say it took the United States almost 180 years to stabilize their democracy. They've gone through civil war, they've gone through agitation of women's suffrage, they've gone through inclusion of colored people into electoral process, they've gone through agitation post depression, reconstruction issues, and a lot of years have gone by. In fact, there are those who will say that it was only about the 1960s that America started stabilizing gradually into its democracy. Those who say Nigeria, we are growing it, and it has to be systemic and gradual. Are you impatient, Mr. Agbokoba? Thinking in the heads of a lot of Nigerians who think this system may not be working. There are those who say, if it takes America that long, are we impatient? Can we see it through? Whether or not, one way or the other, we will morph into what should be.
Well, look, when you say impatience, don't forget that, and here I use the word governance very loosely, because don't forget that almost a quarter or even a third of the world is not democratic. It's not, for instance, China is not democratic. So the key question to ask as we begin to think through what we should do with a new governance system is democracy. It might sound very controversial, but we must confront this question. Is democracy the only model to consider? Is China not doing well for its people? If you took a vote of Nigerians, do you think that they would necessarily return a verdict on democracy? That is something we must not take for granted. I cherish democracy as a Democrat, but I'm not going to say I assume that Nigeria must be a democracy. China is not a democracy. China is only 11 years older than Nigeria. But look at the gap. I remember that the UAE came here in 1975 asking for money. But can you compare Nigeria and the UAE? So when you say, are we impatient? I'm a bit taken aback. Must we spend 300 years because the US spent 200 years? Can't we learn from the examples of those who have become developed? Well, my big example would be the UAE, developed as it is. China, 1.4 billion people, yet they have been managed. What made them successful? Can't we learn lessons from what made China successful? Here, we have a challenge about our democratic system. And I put that down to the Western political system that enables the person who wins to take everything. Now, if you take everything and exclude others, there'll be problems. But if you have a system, whatever it is, that it includes people, everybody, I don't know what that will be called. If you have a system that includes people, then I think it will be really, really beneficial. Right now, we have a big problem in having a system that excludes. I think you will find the biggest problem we have in Nigeria around exclusion. That, I think, is the biggest problem. Around exclusion. People are not taking part in the process. So, right, let's say 2027 is coming. So suddenly you have the big issue of coalitions, defections. Why? I have not heard many politicians talk about people, about the welfare of Nigerians, about their suffering, about their inadequate opportunities. I've not heard that. All I hear politicians do is every 4 years, they jump up, they become active. Once they get power, they disappear. Look at the ridiculous one in the National Assembly about voting being compulsory. If that bill were to pass, I, Agbokoba, will not obey it. I'll plead conscientious objection. I'd rather go to prison for 6 months than to obey it. Why would the National Assembly want to impose compulsory voting? Why don't they reverse the question and say, why are Nigerians not interested? What is the apathy about? Well, the apathy is that they don't get anything. If I know that I'm going to get something, there's an aspiration, there's an interest, you will find people coming out to vote. But if people see the same old trick, you come, you take my vote, you disappear till the next 4 years, there'll be apathy. So for all these reasons, Seun, I think we need to look for a new model. We need to look for a new model.
So, and I'm thinking
that something follows. Yes.
Yeah, I'm
yes.
thinking, is it that the public office is too juicy? It's too attractive. That is why. Because I imagine you're saying that those who have led this country have not really done well. But perhaps I'm inferring from your statement tonight that we've had leadership failure in this country, and that's why we are where we are today. Am I right from what you have said?
You're right. You're right. We've generally had. I mean, there've been some. We've had some good leaders, I must confess. But generally speaking, the leadership quality has been very poor. And the leadership quality has not led Nigerians to where it wants to be. And that's why I refer to the fact that we have voter apathy and disinterest. So unless we ask ourselves and interrogate the issue behind this lack of interest in voting, we will not get it right. And I can tell you that the reason why Nigerians are not interested is because they don't see anything. You should take a trip around Nigeria. Lagos is not Nigeria, by the way, because some people who live here like us think that Lagos is Nigeria or Abuja is Nigeria. Go to the villages and see the suffering. So why is it that the politicians come to us every 4 years and then disappear, and they keep everything? What the American famous writer of a book called Why Nations Fail, called the plutocrats. Less than 0.5% of Nigerians have 99% of the wealth. There's something wrong with that inequality. Inequality is something that causes tension and division, and it makes it easy for politicians to buy votes because people are so hungry. I don't blame anyone who takes 2,000 naira to vote because he's not got money. So we have to devise a system that includes. It's very important. Everyone, the closest I think I can remember and recall of a political governance process that was put forward was by the late Dr. Alex Ekweme when he devised the 6 geopolitical zones and even talked about, vice presidents coming from the different zones. But that didn't work out. So what you have here now is a federal government exercising complete political power over everything. Nigeria now is divided, as you know, into at least 2 autonomous governments, because I don't want to count the local government as the third. So you have the federal government and you have the state government. Have you ever taken a look at the budget of the prisons? Nigeria runs a federal prison system to the exclusion of the states. And they are spending between 11 to 15 billion every year to maintain the prison service. But they have no prisoners. They've got only one, and that's nnamdi kanu. So if you got no prisoners, why run prisons? Why don't you simply allocate it to the states? Why don't you? Why are you keeping prisons when you don't have prisoners? Why do you issue driver's license when that is not your business? That's the business of the state. Why do you have breaks and deaths, you have the marriage registry. What is the federal government doing registering my marriage? Is that not a local government function? Why are the local governments deprived of governmental things to do, and you keep them on busy? So you pack all the power to the center. You have only one IG. How can you have just one IG of police in a country and think that it will be free of crime? That's the problem. So we have to distribute power and include yes.
Yeah. So here, for those who are democracy advocates, and who would say there are no options or alternative to democracy, and if you have spoken highly about how the Chinese system has worked, what exactly are you saying in that sense?
I'm saying that if China, which is not democratic, is working, what is making them work? And why can't we look at what is making them work without necessarily becoming a non-democratic state?
So you think that we should sit down as a people and have a conversation, a national conversation, to begin to rethink our process? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, because it's not working.
Mr. Agbokoba, you've been around longer than much longer than I have. You've seen a lot of national conferences. And the reports of those conferences are gathering dust. Wasted effort and wasted money. Because they are wasted in the sense that if they are not utilized, what sense are they doing in the National Library or in the corners of the presidential villa? Confab is the latest one, is the last one of 2014 under President Goodluck Jonathan, and nothing has happened to it. If you are proposing that, how sure are we? Is there a political will of the government of the day to be able to put one together and convene a conference that may affect the structure of the government that the government of the day is running on? Or how do we even go about it, Mr. Agbokoba?
I have no idea. I'm just one person, but I'm just throwing up challenges. My point to you this evening is that things are not working.
Is there a danger if it is not urgently looked at?
Of course. I mean, look at how the instability is growing again. It went down, but now it's growing again. So there's a point we're going to get to where, I don't know, it's a dangerous country. It's an extremely dangerous country. Let's face it. Let's not lie about it. Nigeria is an extremely dangerous country crying for leadership. And to your point about all these national conferences and why do they not work, they don't work because the people who have hijacked power, the kleptocrats who have hijacked power, don't want it to work. They are not about to expand the space to include everybody. They like it. And that's the problem. So there are ways, let me be frank, there are ways, I'm going to be brutally frank on your program. Military coup d'etat. Sensible people coming to the table and saying, let's stop this nonsense and get Nigeria going. Communism, the China way. We have to face it. We've got to face it. You that I'm talking to, Seun, I started this thing at 29, now I'm 72. So we've got to be realistic that things are not working. Absolutely not working. So there's no point lying. I marvel at the other day I was just looking at my online program at they called it the what do they call it now? The bridges, the infrastructure of China. During COVID, China built in 9 days a 1,000 bed hospital. 1,000 bed hospital. If they can do it, what's wrong with us? Is it not time? Well, part of the problem too is we lack visionary leaders. So we've got to be able to find somebody that can lead us out of this morass. But if that were the morass, we are. Do I have the full answers? I don't. But these are the options. We have to look at options because Nigeria is going down. And there are good people that you can pull together to make it change. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. We are too greedy here, our politicians. Can you ask yourself, and please next time invite Mr. Okowa, because he is, for me, a big disappointment. A man who was vice presidential candidate on a major political party jumps out of that party claiming that the party is no longer relevant. The party that took him from councillor to local government chair to commissioner to SSG to governor to vice presidential candidate, then it's no longer relevant. Ah, boy. No. That takes the beating out of Nigerians. And I think more defections are coming. Everybody now wants to be in the APC. But why can't you be in the opposition and grow it and challenge the APC, giving us a potential to make choices? We say, oh, it can be APC because they can do this. Some will say, no, it is PDP or whatever other party that there is. That's the choice we are looking for. Why can't we get there is the problem.
All right.
We are held down.
Yeah. Mr. Agbokoba, you are a pro-democracy advocate, and at 70-something, you are giving up. I'm still in my 40s.
Yeah.
I don't know what is it.
I'm not. No, yeah. Don't misquote me. I haven't given up.
No, I mean, you said that this democracy is not working.
Yes, is it working? Do you think it's working?
No, that's what I'm saying. It sounds to me that you have given up on this democracy if it's not working.
No, I'm not giving up. I'm trying to say, what can we do to make it work? That's my point. Okay. I didn't say I've given up.
Okay. Let's take a breather, Mr. Agbokoba, and we perhaps will help our nation to rethink the best ways forward. I do believe that Nigeria can be greater than America. Well, don't laugh me, because I do know that there are great people in this country. And this land has enormous potential. And America will be shocked in the coming years if only we can get our acts together. But we take a breather, everyone. When we come back, our conversation with Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Olisa Agbokoba, who was a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association. We continue after this break. Much everyone for staying with us on the program tonight. We have Mr. Olisa Agbokoba, a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, a senior advocate of Nigeria, who has been speaking with us on the program on the dynamics of the 2027 elections, our electoral and political journey, and whether or not the system of government we presently operate fits perfectly into our kind of life. There are a lot of argument. The argument Mr. Olisa Agbokoba has put forward tonight is the Western style of democratic and capitalist system of government. It's not working. And he's talking about devolving of power to regions and incentivizing productivity over resource extraction. It was an article that we looked through, and he's speaking to it tonight. Mr. Agbokoba, give us an understanding of where we need to go. You said we need a conversation, but what is the best ways to approach it?
That's a $66 million question. We've been talking, and we just not got it right. So, to be quite honest with you, whatever way is the best way to approach it is to first start with the issue of the recognition of the problem. And that's what I spent the last 20 minutes with you trying to share, that there is a problem. If we accept there's a problem, then the thing to do is how, after you get a diagnosis, you get a prescription. So what is the prescription? I think it's quite simple. Any nation that has a multitude of people that are diverse will know that being very strongly put together will not work. That's a no-brainer. So federalism is the best process suited for Nigeria's diversity, unity in diversity. We're diverse but united. Question is, where do you strike the balance? So just to give you a quick rundown on the Constitution, the Constitution contains 98 items of power. 68 items of that is exclusively reserved for the federal government under what is called the exclusive list. The other 30 is reserved for the states under what is called the concurrent list. And mark you, the word concurrent is very tricky. Concurrent means that two persons can use it. So when the federal government keeps its own 68 to the exclusion of the states, the same federal government can interfere in the other 30, which is concurrent with that of the states, meaning that there's only one government. People don't realize this. That's what it means. Then we have Schedule 4 of the... So, there's only one government in Nigeria. Then we have Schedule 4 of the Constitution that assigns power to the local governments, which is consecrated as a democratically elected government by Section 7 of the Constitution. You know what the governments have done? And that's why bless his soul, President Tinubu, for absolutely removing the powers of the states to control the finances of local governments. That was a brilliant blow. But he needs to go further. Let me take Lagos State. Lagos State passed a law, absolutely ridiculous, saying, you know what, all you local government people, you don't have the power and capacity and the money to do the various things the Constitution assigns you to do, like refuse collection. So you know what's it called? This LOMA or loss or whatever it is. So the Lagos State government passes a law taking all the powers of the local governments to themselves, that we shall do the work for you. Can you beat that? In other words, crippling the effectiveness of the local governments. That's the problem. That is the problem. So effectively, the local governments have been crippled, except now that Mr. President has given them financial autonomy. The state governments are crippled. Don't forget when Amechi was governor of Rivers State. He was reduced by Mr. Mbu, who was commissioner of police. They locked him out. What did heavens for? A commissioner of police locking out a governor of the state. That tells you the problem we have. So unless we begin to confront these problems, we're going nowhere. There is no way a commissioner of police can interfere in the matters concerning a state. So my answer to your question is, we have to redistribute. We have to evolve. We have to devolve. We have to restructure, whatever name you want to call it. We have to rebalance Nigeria so that all organs of government at their different spheres of influence will have true capacity to work without interference. The federal government will have its own, sphere of influence, and the states and the local government. Then you have three co-equal governments. That is the start of the building blocks of a true democracy. That's what
Mr. Agbokoba, I'll put you in a rather difficult situation. Perhaps not sure. What you, at this age, what you probably will imagine you'll be in. But it's going to be a very few minutes of feeling like that. Let's assume that you are President Olisa Agbokoba, President of Nigeria. Just for a moment, imagine it. And for all you have analyzed, President Olisa Agbokoba, what would you do to Nigeria today if you were the president?
The first thing I'll do is to dismantle the Constitution. That's the first thing I'll do. I'll dismantle the Constitution. I'll call in the elders, social elders, religious elders, traditional elders, political elders, and say, I'm in trouble. Things are not working. What can we do? I'll have a frank conversation and say, I'd like to make Nigeria a place where everybody feels equal. And the only way I can do it is to take government to the roots. There are things I can't do that I see in the Constitution. I don't want to do them. So I would like to have a situation where I distribute power and pass a new constitution. And in fact, I see a model. I see the 1963 model. Can we have that so that the regions will have its space? MKO once told me when I visited him that one of the ways in which he had peace was he never allowed any wife to dominate. So if wife A wanted to cook okra soup for the kids, that's fine. Another one wants to cook amala, that is fine. But if you decide to have one central wife who says today is rice and beans, but most of the children don't want it, then there's a problem. So decentralization is the way to go.
Sadly, your reign as president is over. And unfortunately, I made you president in 1 minute, and you've told us what you will do. But now, do you think that the original president, President Bola Tinubu, has the political will or could do what you have described now?
I don't see why not. Bola Tinubu is a great friend of mine, and we used to talk very much in the democracy during the struggle. And I don't see what's holding him, honestly. I think he has the will and the capacity to carve his name in history. There is not President Tinubu reducing his powers and strengthening the states and the local government will not make him less President Tinubu. It will make him more effective. You know what I always tell people who are my friends in politics? I say, you guys spend too much politicking. Every night you are cavorting in rooms and all that. But there's something very simple you can do. Win the hearts and minds of people. It's the easiest way. Win people by being good. Deliver schools, deliver hospitals, deliver good jobs. They will not forget you. They will in fact line up and vote for you because you are the man who did not ask anything from them. But if you think you can keep buying, because you know the game of Nigerian politics is to buy the votes and to read. You know that. That's why every time we are over clogging the courts with petitions, why can't politicians, and for the life of me, I don't understand it. I am a political leader. God has allowed me the opportunity to govern people. I will do good by them. That's how they will love me. That's the reason they will come back and say, we want you to continue. That's the easiest way to get into government and to continue for the 8 years that you are there. Why would you, when you are elected, not do anything? Well, it beats me. It beats me. I don't understand it. Why come to office in the first place?
Yeah. Let me allow you. You said the president is your very good friend. He's getting into his second year of his reign as president. And if you are to tell him something tonight about the way our country is, and you have said earlier today that we urgently need to take action for our country to move forward. Let's assume Mr. President Bola Tinubu is watching you tonight. What would you be telling him right now?
Yes. But I've told him.
What did you tell him?
I told him Nigeria's constitution needs to be reviewed, reworked, remodeled, and designed in a way to suit our democracy and our people, number one. Two, I've told him that we should practice what I call economic nationalism. Money is in the hands of too few people. I don't want to go into the issue of what happens in our oil governance because nobody will believe it. So I'll just leave that one. But when money in Nigeria is in the hands of too few, there's a problem. Let's have a system to distribute wealth equitably, maybe not equally, equitably. Let everybody feel the impact of government. That's what I will tell him. And that's what I told him. I gave him 10 points. 10 points.
But what was his response?
I will call you.
Did he say that he was going to do any of those things
he told him? He said that he will call me. I'm waiting for the call. I'm waiting for the call.
How long was this? How long was this?
This was actually at Babio's birthday celebration in Abuja where I gave the keynote speech. And I gave them 10 points. That if they put in place, will change Nigeria. It's not difficult to make Nigeria work. That's the problem.
2027 is going to be another milestone. Either we like it or not. If nothing changes. The merger, the coalition, and you were very frank, and you don't like the manner in which what happened in Delta PDP happened. But those who are saying that status quo will be retained, if opposition does not get
It's possible.
serious, looking at the crystal ball,
Yes.
what do you see for 2027?
I see a completely weakened opposition, which has started, unfortunately. If I have to be realistic, I don't see the opposition. I don't see it, because if the opposition wanted to win my heart, I mean, in Romania yesterday, there was a big debate as to whether a pro-Trump president will win. The reverse happened. A pro-European president won because he engaged the people. I don't see the opposition engaging anybody except carpet crossing and defecting. So where's the policy? If you wanted to say we are ready to be in government, where is the message? It's not coming across. That's the problem. Nothing is coming across. The signals are blurred. The radio is not tuned properly. So Nigerians are not hearing. If the opposition thinks that they're making any sense, I better tell them tonight they're not. And if they think they have a chance for 2027, they have 2 years to wake up. But if the answer is to keep defecting, that's not going to help Nigerians, because it will not strengthen democracy. It will rather weaken it. And that's the big shame. So in reality, the real challenge is, where are those people who are prepared to sacrifice to be in the opposition and make it work? That is the challenge.
The electoral process
the
in
way
this
that
country,
Nigeria can work.
Yeah, the electoral process in this country is one area that gives a lot of people worry. You've identified that we've been unfortunate with the quality of leadership in this country. If you have visionless leaders, purposeless leaders, leaders without focus, the nation can never move forward. But what about election? The process that brings these people to power, how do we fix that?
The process that brings these people to power is unfortunately itself manipulated. It's manipulated. I mean, do you want me to tell you the story of how some people in the APC ran for presidential slots? When they lost and the time had passed, they quickly ran to become senators, and they are there. Don't you know about that? So what electoral process are you talking about? It doesn't exist. That's the truth. It doesn't exist. Which is why you have voter apathy. People say, going to vote. Will it count? If you want to ask my honest opinion, I ain't going to vote nowhere. Not going anywhere. I'm going to be on my bed that day, drinking non-alcohol beer. Because I don't know that it will count. If I go and stand in the sun for 1-2 hours just to see people pinching money around, you can see the mago going on. It's so obvious. If you had a camera, you will see it. So you want me to go to that process? I might not go. I'm still thinking about whether I'll go. But for now, let the opposition wake up. Let them stop drifting into the APC. Come on, stand firm. If you lose, you lose. People will recognize and remember you. This thing we're talking about, very, very soon, people will not remember those who were empowered today. So the legacy you can give yourself is to write your name in history, that at a particular point in time, so and so person led the Nigerian opposition, or so and so person led the ruling party. And I'm sure President Tinubu would, at the end of the day, be a better president if he had a strong opposition.
I have just 30 seconds to close the program, Mr. Agbokoba. You saw the effort of Mr. Peter Obi. A lot of people never gave him a chance, but you saw what happened. There are those who are thinking that he needs to pair up with someone that is strong to give Nigerians alternative. If you have the opportunity to advise someone like Mr. Peter Obi or Atiku Abubakar ahead of 2027, what would you be telling them? Just about 30 seconds so that we can close.
I'd say to them, build the opposition first. Opposition is not built around a person. It's built around structures and institutions. So P.O.B. yes, but there must be something around him, not just P.O.B. There's got to be something around him. So Atiku, there's got to be something around you. But here in Nigeria, we have one-party opposition. That's why it doesn't work. We need to see millions. Have you ever seen anyone? And here's where I criticize the trade union process. Every time they go on their so-called strike, a day to the strike, they call it off. Even me, I blame the churches. Where are they? Where are they? I'm a Catholic, 30 million Catholics. Where are they? Where are the traditional rulers? Why is everybody quiet? Where's civil society? So the hapless Nigerian who earns a living every day and makes 2,000 naira, are those the guys you think will fight? When the structure of Nigeria is not working?
The House of Representatives has rejected a bill proposing rotation of the presidency among Nigeria's 6 geopolitical zones, sponsored by Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu. The bill was voted down during Tuesday's plenary session. Leading the debate, Kalu argued that the bill will foster inclusivity and ensure all regions contribute to the nation's leadership.
I think that the basic problem is that the Western democratic liberal model has failed Nigeria. As you know, we've worked on a new constitutional process for 25 years, since 2000, and nothing. I think it's time to rethink and reimagine our democratic experience. It's not working. It's not inclusive, it's divisive, it's full of fighting, it's a winner-take-all. People want power, nobody wants to be in the opposition. You see the opposition people all jumping into the APC. The process is not working. So personally, I would advocate something homegrown, autochthonous, what I call consociational democracy, where we build our institutional democracy around our institutions. I am a very strong person for finding a role for traditional rulers. King Charles is the constitutional monarch of the United Kingdom, and he has a role to play. He's going to Canada. He's playing a role in the trade process. He's got a good deal with Trump. So I think our constitutional process should include the traditional rulers. Quite in what way, I'm not sure. We ought to stop this thing about winner take all. That's the problem. I will recommend the Belgian model, where the Walloons and the Flemings are different people, but they've come to an arrangement whereby there's inclusion. So whatever process we want to adopt, the first point would be to discard the Western democratic liberal model. It's not working. The second point I want to make is to also discard the Western liberal economic model. It's something that enables only a few to extract. If return on capital exceeds return on development, why would anybody want to develop Nigeria? So these are the two broad points I think we need to take into account in reimagining a new Nigerian experiment. Otherwise, I started at 29. I keep saying this. Now I'm 72. So you, Rufai, I know you're a young man. 20 years down the line, you'll be saying the same thing. So if something hasn't worked for all this time, is it not time we think through a process? My final point would be, let us stop this nonsense about saying that the APC wants Nigeria to be a one-party state. It's the opposition. It's the opposition. If a guy comes to my wife and takes her away, who would I blame? The guy or my wife? So I don't blame the APC. They want to win power. And the reason why this is so is because it's a winner-take-all. Nigeria is not at the point where we can afford this winner-take-all process. We must include. How that will be done is beyond my own competence. But I think that those are the building blocks for a new Nigeria.
Okay, since you're speaking on inclusivity, I would like to get your thoughts on this issue of rotational presidency, because the conversation is that the bill has been rejected that proposes that the presidency should rotate around all of the geopolitical zones. And won't this be a solution to cure some of the marginalization that we see many groups speak of? Other people are saying that, well, this will institutionalize mediocrity. Where do you stand when it comes to the rotational presidency?
It's part of the element of consociational democracy. It happens in Belgium. So in Belgium, there are two distinct ethnic and linguistic groups, the Walloons and the Flemings. And they share power, they rotate it. So if you do that here, and you include people. I know that I'm from the Southeast and that I have a process, a voice in what plays out in the executive system, then I don't feel as if I'm a loser. But right now, this winner-take-all thing, it's doing us severe damage. So inclusivity needs to be properly constitutionalized. You recall that the late Chief Dr. Ekweme was the one who first proposed the 6 regions. I proposed 8, creating a middle belt, and so that's 7, and creating something out of the South-South, 8. How that will work is not for me to say on this short program, but that's the building block for Nigeria. And the reason is clear, the evidence is clear. Why not moving forward? Don't you see Trump roaming around the Middle East, roaming around the Arabian Peninsula? And I say, but these are also Muslims. How are they so advanced? They don't have democracy. China doesn't have democracy. Yet they're advanced. Then we pretend that we have Western liberal democracy imposed on us, and we're going nowhere. So it's time to reimagine the process on the grounds that the patient has been in the hospital and is not recovering. So let's jettison this nonsense about the Western model, which they have imposed. Let's jettison it. Even the Western democratic model is failing in America, with Trump causing problems everywhere. So we need to build on something that is local to us, that works. And what is local to us that works is inclusion. If everybody feels that they are part of the lunch, I'm not talking about corrupt lunch, I'm part of the power sharing, then we can move forward. And we can develop Nigeria in the way that, I was so ashamed to see small countries like Qatar, UAE, Abu Dhabi, Trump romping around the whole place, feeling good. And here we are in a rotten country with all the resources we have. We've got to put our best foot forward, and we're not doing that now under this Western liberal democratic process.
Okay, looking at the state of the democracy in Nigeria today, I think one component that we can also talk about is this concept of voting and voter apathy. That's why in the House of Representatives they're looking at making voting mandatory. What are your thoughts on there? Because I think that if we're looking at the reasons why people may be hesitant to vote, it could speak to your point about inclusivity or the lack thereof, or a democratic system that doesn't actually work. So what are your thoughts on making voting mandatory? Do you think that's something that Nigeria should be focusing on right now?
Absolutely not. How can you make voting mandatory? Voting will be a process that will animate Nigerians if they see something, if there's a return. So you got to make it mandatory, pass a law. Nobody's going to come out. You make voting attractive by promising people dividends of democracy. That's what makes people come out. But if it's so apathetic, people have this idea that every 4 years we have formal democracy and people are asked to vote and they don't come out because they don't get anything. They don't get anything. Look at me here at 72. I haven't got a dime, no advantage from the government of Nigeria. Why would I want to vote? Why should I want to vote? If it comes to the elections coming in Anambra in November, then I'll be keen to live here to go to Anambra to vote. Why? What do I get? So there's the apathy caused by a failure of development, by a failure of governance, by a complete breakdown. That's what's causing it.
2 questions, sir. Number 1, is it with these morally bankrupt politicians and traditional rulers you think we can get it right? Politicians that you know will manipulate whatever system of rotation that is there, where elections are challenged in the first place, and afterwards, once the politicians emerge, we will now decide and say it's the will of God and keep deceiving ourselves when we should call a spade a spade. People will steal elections in this country. They will tell you to tell them it's the will of God. And is it with traditional rulers, with scandals everywhere? I'm not saying they've not been an agent of good in some instances, but we see the scandal and the flamboyance of traditional rulers. Is this the cocktail we want?
No, I agree, Rufai. We're in a very bad way at a point of despair. But you see, we've got to do it. We have to do a diagnosis. There's no one right answer. But the diagnosis that I see right now is that Western liberal democracy is failing us. That's the first conceptual issue to put on the table. can we continue with this winner-take-all, first-past-the-post process? On the evidence, I would say no. Then the question is, if that is agreed, and I think it's agreed, if you ask Nigerians, they would say, well, I'm feeling the effect of democracy. The question would then be, what do? We have to do something. So what I'm proposing is to say this model has failed. Do we have to look into other models? And I've told you that I've looked into the model of cooperative federalism. I've looked at consociational democracy. I've looked at autonomous democracy. And I don't pretend that all will be well simply by dropping the Western model and adapting this. But the question is, why do we have such levels of corruption? It's because of what we find in the book, Why Nations Fail. If you have an extractive process whereby very few take everything, the others are going to be disgruntled. And how are these very few able to do so? By corrupting voters, by corrupting the traditional rulers. But if we are all in the table, in the game, if we're all holding cards, then it will remove the incentive to be corrupt. That's just a theory I have. But one thing I'm very clear about, the Western liberal model does not work. I mean, not that I'm proposing that Nigeria should cease to be a democratic country. But why is China working? Is it a democracy? Why is it working? Why are people happy with them? In spite of the fact that they also have their problems.
Are people happy?
Why is the Arabian Peninsula working?
Are people happy?
Do they have democracy?
Are people happy?
Who?
In China.
There. Where?
In China? In the Middle East? Are people happy?
China?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Generally, people are happier in China than Nigeria. Absolutely.
Well, sir, I
I
mean,
mean, there are human rights problems in China, obviously.
if we look at the laws in China, they're not allowed to express their displeasure. So they have to say they're happy. Very quickly, we just have 30 seconds. If I appreciate your commentary and your critique of the Western liberal democracy. My question is, if we are to say, let's look at something that's more traditionally African in nature. Traditional African hierarchy was more about inheritance. It was more about bloodline. There was no real consideration for meritocracy. Are you saying that merit is something that can be sacrificed to please the larger population of people and make them feel a part of the project? Very quickly, sir.
I'm simply saying that don't forget that Nigeria is an extremely young country and that Nigeria was essentially clobbered together by the West. And the influence of our traditional rulers still remain very, very valid. To the extent to which we want to involve them in the process will be a subject of debate. I'm not suggesting that they will come in and become the executive. But if other countries have done it, effectively in the Western world, the United Kingdom has had a monarch, 9 different ruling dynasties for 1,000 years. And it has worked in the context of the Westminster system. So as we create something, as we begin to formulate something, what that something will be, I cannot tell. But my point is the Western model has not worked. And should we continue with the Western model? I'm sure all of you in the studio will agree that things are not working. So the issue would simply be, do we just simply every 4 years we have these elections and we all complain, now APC is being accused, everybody is jumping into APC. What are the causes of these problems? That's the issue that should conceptually challenge us. And I've given one broad answer, which needs to be further interrogated.
Thank you so much.
And that broad answer is the failure of the Western liberal process. And it is time to reimagine a new process. Agbokoba is not the only person who will do that. So I'm merely contributing my own thoughts It will be refined and defined. So your question about
All
the
right,
role
Steve,
of traditional
thank you.
rulers
Thank you
may,
so much.
at the end of the day,
Thank you so
not be
much.
relevant.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
In the life of every nation,
Thank
the
you.
tinkering process will continue.
So, guys, you have seen it for yourself. People like Agbokoba, their thoughts are really very valuable. I mean, this man is one of those people that if you check like platforms like Arise TV and also, Channels Television, they like bringing him on because they know that he gives some good and important thoughts that can really help Nigeria. See, Tinubu is just busy chasing 2027 and has not delivered on anything Nigerians expected him to do. Recently, they came out to say they've paid IMF loan. IMF loan that you borrowed, you paid back. You've not even finished paying all the dues that are attached to it. And you are already giving yourself like telling Nigerians that you have done the best thing. Look at what is happening in Nigeria. Everywhere insecurity. Like today now, a student who was going to write WAEC was shot down dead by police who were told that they were pursuing Yahoo boys. And they ended up buying these boys, somebody who was going to write WAEC, because there's no rule of law. EFCC will tell you they are the ones in charge of Yahoo boys. Police will come out and tell you they are the ones in charge of Yahoo. There's no rule of law, and they don't even know how to operate within their strengths. I mean, within the gap that the Constitution has given them. But everybody just acts. There's no law. Nothing is working. The institutions are weak. I mean, for Tinubu to even come up to like impose state of emergency on rivers against the Constitution and nobody is talking, it's already a sign that Tinubu is not even a Democrat. He's not a Democrat, and so many things happening in Nigeria today. It's really, really so sad that that we are here as a people and nobody is talking. I mean, nobody is airing his view as to how bad things are happening in this country. Now, this is the post. I'm just going to read out. This is protest in Ibadan as police stray bullet by student going for WAEC exam. This is it. We are living in a country where there's no rule of law. A student who was going to write exam was just gunned down because there is no rule of law in this country. The police does not know their limits of operation. Neither does the EFCC. Today, now EFCC posted a post on Twitter saying they are now in charge of taxes. They are going to be working with Inland Revenue to ensure people pay taxes. One is just wondering, when did EFCC join tax force in payment of taxes? This man that is heading the EFCC, is it that he's not seeing corrupt politicians? Is it that he's not seeing that Nigeria is losing a lot in terms of corruption in this country, and they don't want to? In short, when I saw the EFCC boss on Twitter preaching, I was like, God, no, there's nobody that will not bear the name of the Lord. I mean, this man was seen preaching in the church, prophesying healing, and see, he cannot even do the list of the things that any normal thinking human being can do. Look at corruption everywhere. All the loans that are being borrowed, how are we sure they are being channeled properly? How are we sure they are being channeled properly? Tinubu is not doing anything about the challenges of Nigerians. He's just after 2027 trying to get people to join him at all costs. Look at, recently there was this news that Fubara is now ready to join the APC. I mean, that would be the peak of betrayal. People almost lost their lives fighting for this Fubara. Now he has yielded. If you know you were going to yield, why make people to risk their lives? People came out to support you, and on just little pressure, you want to join the APC against your own decision. Tinubu is forcing you must join the APC so that you can give him Rivers State. Tinubu knows that he has nothing to offer the Nigerian people. The only thing he can resort to is to, get people to join the APC whether they like it or not. He uses the EFCC. He uses, like what is happening in Rivers now. He imposed a sole administrator. And now, for Fubara to come back, he must join the APC. Tinubu is not even ashamed, because how does he even feel, going this route, and he thinks people will, how are people going to perceive him? Don't he know that one day he will leave this power? He wants to come back and then let Nigeria become a one-party system, so that he will be dictating for Nigerians what will be happening, just like he does in Lagos State. Now, this person say protest in Ibadan as police stray bullet buys student going for WAEC exam. You see? Now, let me read further. You see, some youths in Ibadan Tuesday protested at Uyo State Government Secretariat over the buying of a student by a stray bullet allegedly fired by a policeman. The student, said to be writing the ongoing WAEC, oh my God, was hit by the stray bullet around Baggy Market Road in the early hours of Tuesday. Daily Post gathered that the student was on his way to write the examination in company with his siblings and father. Hey, when the incident occurred. It was learned that the stray bullet was fired by a police officer who was pursuing a suspect. The victim was immediately rushed to Welfare Hospital but was pronounced dead on arrival. The correspondent reports that some angry residents protested against the buying of the students. The protesters took the students' lifeless body to the Oyo State Government Secretariat, calling on Governor Seun Makinde to intervene. So the said person is gone, is gone. Any other thing that's being done now is medicine after death. But they will say they will pay compensation, which cannot restore the life of this person. We are living in a country where there is no rule of law. See, Tinubu is just after 2027. He has not achieved one thing. The only achievement is that he has ended up landing Nigerians into poverty, making sure that middle class is now, sure there's nothing like middle class. Almost everybody has slipped into the poverty community because of Tinubu's policies and all kinds of things. They've just been doing trial and error with the lives of Nigerians, and nothing is working. Recently, they said they were going to the UK to go and put up Tinubu's achievement. I'm like, do you need to go to the UK to go and see, to go and come up with what you feel Tinubu has achieved in these 2 years? You have to ask the people, ask Nigerians to tell you if Tinubu has achieved anything or not. Not you going to the UK to go and gather, and I don't even know if it's in the UK that the achievements were achieved or it's in Nigeria. If you achieve them in Nigeria, why go to the UK to assemble them together so that you present to Nigerians as if we are all mumu? You know, Nigerians are all mumu, right? That's how this government sees us, and that's why they are not ready to work in the favor of the people. Anyway, guys, I don't know what you make of what Mr. Agbokoba has got to say. Let me know your honest reaction in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others, and drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you.